Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Good morning to all of you. Good morning. So, yes, very good morning to all of you. So today we are going to discuss our second poem related to American literature. In our last lecture we have completed our first poem of that is first poem of American literature. So today we are going to discuss the second poem, The Negro Speaks of Rivers. Okay, yesterday we have completed song on the open road. We saw that how writer gives importance to particular freedom that he himself is the master responsible for his own future, and he himself again explained that what is important. So now we are going to discuss our second poem of American literature, that is the Negro speaks about the rivers. The poem is quite easy. The poem is quite easy, as just we saw that it's only 13 lines poem in a free verse. Each and every word is really very easy, and the writer just want to communicate a certain message that how the black people. First, he explained the pride through his poem and also explain the ancient civilization to present American slavery in the present poem. The poem is really very easy to understand. First, we are going to discuss about the writer. Then we see poem. Then important points related to poem. After that, in next lecture we will discuss the poem line by line. Okay. So first we move towards our poet, that is Langston Hughes. So Langston Hughes, his full name is James Mercer Langston Hughes, born February 1, 1902 in Missouri and died May 22, 1967 in New York. American writer who was an important figure in the Harlem Renaissance and made the African American experiences the subject of his writing, which ran from poetry and plays to novels and newspaper columns. So he was a very important figure in the Harlem Renaissance, which generally the movement related to the literature, particularly New Negro movement related to literature near about 1920. So he was the prominent member of that Harlem Renaissance, in which they just wrote various poems, novels, literature related to Negro, means Afro American experiences they want to explain in the particular Harlem Renaissance or New Negro movement. While it was long believed that Hughes was born in 1902, new research released in 2018 indicated that he might have born the previous year. His parents separated soon after his birth, and he was raised by his mother and grandmother. After his grandmother's death, he and his mother moved to half a dozen cities before reaching Cleveland, where they settled. He wrote the poem The Negro Speaks of the River The summer after his graduation from high school in Cleveland, it was published in The Crisis in 1921 and brought him considerable attention. So, the poem he wrote at his early age when he has completed his graduation and it was published in 1921 in journal The Crisis, which make him gave him enough reputation. To just see how the writer wrote. He wrote the poem at the very early age, the present poem, and it explained various experiences which he has received. After attending Columbia University in New York City in 1921-22, he explained Harlem forming a permanent attachment to what he called the Great Dark City and worked as a steward on a freighter bound for Africa. Back in New York City from seafaring and sojourning in Europe, he met in 1924 the writer Erna Bontemps and Cal Van Wechem, with whom he would have lifelong influential friendship. He just won an Opportunity Magazine Poetry Prize in 1925. That same year, Van Wechem introduced Hughes' poetry to the publisher Alfred A. Knopf, who accepted the collection that Knopf would published as The Varied Blues in 1926. So, here the important elements. He is the prominent member of Harlem Renaissance or contributor to Harlem Renaissance, which is the movement, literary movement related to Afro-American literature, related to new Negro movement in literature near about 1920. Again, the present poem, The Negro Speaks of Rivers, published in 1921 in the crisis. Then he has received one award, Opportunity Magazine Poetry Prize in 1925. So these are the two, three important points which we have to remember, for our examination point of view. First, member of Harlem Renaissance. Second, the poem published. It's a very poem published at early age after completing his graduation in 1921 in the crisis. And the third, he won an Opportunity Magazine prize. Langston Hughes' influence on the blues on Langston Hughes' poetry. George B. Hutchison, author of Harlem Renaissance in Black and White, speaking about Langston Hughes' use of the blues to create poetry. Courtesy to Stephen Metzen, author of the Harlem Renaissance. This is not very important point. Then we see while working as a busboy in a hotel in Washington, D.C. in late 1925, Hughes put three of his own poems beside the plate of Rachel Lindsay in the dining room. The next day, newspapers around the country reported that Lindsay, among the most popular white poets of the day, had discovered an African American busboy poet, which earned Hughes broader notice. Hughes received a scholarship to and began attending Lincoln University in Pennsylvania in early 1926. That same year, he received the Witter Pennier Undergraduate Poetry Award and he published The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain in the Nation, a manifesto in which he called for a confident, uniquely black literature. So this is the basic information about the writer, that he has to how he has to struggle in his early life and how luckily he get chance and after that he became very successful poet. So we have to remember at least 3 to 4 points related with our writer, that is Harlem Renaissance member of, published at early age after completing his graduation, published in 1921 in the crisis, received early award like Opportunity Magazine Prize, and he became famous when he meet with that particular Lindsay, the poet Lindsay, in a hotel while serving him. Just see its condition. Now we just move towards our poem. First, I just read the poem. Just see what the writer want to tell us. The poem is very easy. Then we will see after that its explanation, which is given 2 3 pages, and after that we again see line by line explanation of our poem. Whenever we read, just read in the same way so that you can understand, and then it is easy for all of us to study this poem for our examination point of view. Just see, the Negro speaks of rivers. Langston Hughes, 1902 to 1967. I have known rivers. Just see, poem is very easy. I have known rivers. Rivers, as we know, it is as ancient as the world, even before human race. Also, we maybe says he indirectly want to say that freedom. He want freedom, which is also very important. So I have known rivers. I have known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. Just see here what the writer want to tell us. Just see what he want to say that he no river. It's a first person narration. Just see throughout the poem. I. So it's a first person narration. Here the poet want to tell that he can knew rivers. Here the element of personification is used, which brings the reader close to the world the speaker lives in. He became so close to those bodies of water he knew them as one might know the follow human thing. Again, in the second line, he used the same line. I have known rivers. It is not just any river as is known, but ones that is are as ancient as the world. So here he gives the names of the rivers which are as ancient as the world. These bodies of water are vastly important to the history of Earth. They eventually came to be to humanity as well. The human element of the landscape is secondary to that which occurred before human became the dominant species of the planet. This is emphasized by the statement that the water of the river is older. Just see, the water of the river is older than the flow of human blood in human veins. I have known rivers ancient. Array. Just switch off your mics. So here, what he emphasized, he has known the rivers which are as ancient as the world and older than the flows of human blood in human veins. Okay, so in the very first stanza, he just want to explain that the rivers which he knew, these are very old, in fact, as ancient as the world, and in fact, these are older than the human birth. These features of the earth are being considered above the humans that eventually claim them. The final lines of the section state that the soul has grown deep like the rivers. It has taken on the ancient and multi-layered aspect of the rivers as well as their progression through a landscape. His soul is like most ancient and longest of rivers. This is going to play into the next stanza. Just see, my soul has grown deep like the river. So he knew betterly than means he knew everything about these ancient rivers, about ancient civilization, about his black culture. So here is a type of pride we see. So here we saw just the type of pride in that black culture. Here just he want to explain that every such type of rivers which is as ancient as old world and older than our blood. It means he himself attached himself with his ancestor and root by locating them in different important rivers of the world. And he again explained that his soul has grown deep like the rivers, which explain that these great rivers in his life, how it is important. Just see the meaning. Then next line, I bath. I bath in the Euphrates when dawns were young. Just see here what the writer want to explain. Just see what he claimed. He just explained that he here to these 3 to 4 lines. He just explained various names of rivers like Euphrates. Then I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of Mississippi when Abraham Lincoln, went down to New Orleans, and I have seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I have known rivers, ancient dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. So here, after that, he just explained the names of various rivers. These are not common rivers. These are very ancient rivers. And these all rivers stand for freedom. No one cannot tame river, and there is no bondage to the river. It is always free. By bringing example of these great rivers in the world, here the poet tries to justify that as freedom is natural to the rivers, it would be natural to the human species, irrespective of their race, their color, their culture. So here we maybe says he just want to explain the about his freedom. Just see, a reader should note that the 4 lines of the section that begins with I, it is the first four in which the speaker goes from the Euphrates to the Mississippi, telling the story of his life. The first place he takes the reader to is the Euphrates. Just see, the river which flows through the south of Turkey and into Iraq. It is one of the longest in the world. So all 4 rivers are different types of rivers, but all are as old as the earth. Particularly the first river, it flows near South Turkey into the Iraq. It is one of the longest in the world. This body of water is deeply connected to mythology and ancient history. So even the various oldest civilizations, the roots of civilizations we see near these all rivers. So even this river is also related with mythology and ancient history. It is recorded that the city of Babylon was erected on its banks. It is often linked with the Tigris. Together they made up Tigris Euphrates river system. It was there that he experienced the young dawns. This is reference to the beginning of time, or at least the beginnings of human civilization. Just see what here the poet wants. I bath in the Euphrates when these dawns were young means before it's just starting point of civilization, beginning of human civilization. Before it, he knew everything. And so here he deliberately used the names of such type of big rivers. Next, the speaker takes the reader to the Congo. Here he is referring to the second longest river in Africa. We all are aware of Congo. I think for our last year syllabus, we have one novel related with Congo, written by Marlowe. So just here see, here he gives the reference of Congo. What is the line? I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. So it runs through three different countries, the Congo River, the Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Angola. This line is easy enough to interpret. He built his hut there on its bank and allowed it to lull him to sleep. This is quite an intimate way to get to know a river. Every moment he spends with each of these bodies of water is similar in that way. He has a personal connection with them. So he just gives example of that river, Congo, that even in those days also such type of civilization in which it is easy to sleep, and he built a hut near that Congo and it lulled him to sleep properly. Next line. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. So here he just speak about the Nile River, the world's longest. It flows from south to the north in northeastern Africa. From his moment in time, he was looking upon the Nile while helping to build the pyramids. This clearly places him among the peasants and slaves who worked for the pharaohs of Egypt. Aside from the marvel of the pyramids, the Nile is the source of life for much of the region. He is assigning himself with the most important natural element of the various times. So here he again remember that peasants and slaves who built pyramids near Nile, and also Nile is the symbol of life for many people related to that region. So he himself again attached with that river. Then we see next, I heard the singing. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abraham Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I have seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. All golden in the sunset. Just see what here the writer wants to explain. He moves towards the modern time, means from ancient, then Middle Ages, and then to modern time. These four rivers which connect to each other, they are from different ages. Though even today also these are big rivers, but their value considering. So this he comes to modern time and the Mississippi River. He was listening to the sound of the Mississippi River while Abraham Lincoln went down to New Orleans. This is a reference to a particular trip taken by Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. When he was a young man, he guided a boat down the river. This gave him his first glimpse of what slavery was like. The marketplace in New Orleans was one of the largest in the world in the concluding line of this section. So, what when it refers to Abraham Lincoln, just a minute, it refers to Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's trip towards that marketplace, largest marketplace of the world, New Orleans, and where for the first time Abraham Lincoln feels the glimpse of what slavery is. In the concluding line of the section, he says that he has seen the muddy banks of the river turn golden due to the setting of the sun, which means that he in future he will be hopeful for the civilization, for the freedom of these black people, which is very important. So directly moves from Abraham Lincoln to the freedom of his black people. Now we see, I have known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. In the last three lines of this piece, the speaker returns to the repetition that marks the beginning of the Negro Speaks of the River. The lines are mostly the same, with a slight change in the middle. He begins with the third repetition of the phrase, I have known rivers. They are used as a marker for the long and multifaceted life the he has lived. He has been present at some of the world's most important historical occasions, all due to his friendship and dedication in these bodies of water. They are described as being dusky and ancient. Dusky means dark, dark and ancient. This gives them a darker, shadow like undertone suited to the variety of experience he had. In conclusion, the speaker utilizes the line, my soul has grown deep like the rivers. It is clear that in the case he has seen a great deal more than any living person could hope to. So, actually, the poem, though it looks quite simple, but it's really hard to understand and it's really hard to write in the examination also. Actually, I have posted one PDF file related to the poem and its summary and line by line explanation on our group. So just see it and read it carefully because this poem, though it looks very easy, but it's really hard to understand and to write, to take proper notes from it because somehow it looks quite simple and at another occasion it looks quite complex. We have to sort out certain points so that it will be easy for all of us to complete, to write the poem properly in our exam. Okay, so I have known rivers. Poem is very easy. We have to use this particular phrase as a type of quotation in our exam also. I have known rivers because near about three times he repeated the same line in the poem. Uh, just see the Negro speaks of river by Langston Hughes. Just I read some analysis so that we can get idea, again central idea about the poem. The Negro Speaks of River is one of Hughes' most famous poem. The poem is written in first person narration, first person speaker. This is another one point which we have to remember. First person narration. I, where the I stands for the all Afro-American people and their collective voices for the freedom. So here this I, it does not stand only for the poet, but it is collective voice of all African American black people who just try, who just struggle for their freedom. This poem is also seen as the adoring acceptance of the poet's own race and its root. At the same time, it is related with ancient history, as we already saw. I have known that particular rivers which are as old, which are ancient as the world and older than the human blood. So here the poet just want to emphasize to acceptance his own race, adore. So here he has pride about his own race and about his own root and even about the old civilization. So these are very two important points which we have to remember that here it is a type of pride related to black culture also, and again it is a all Afro-American people's voice for freedom. Just again, Langston Hughes. This is the lyric expression to the black voice in the context of the Harlem Renaissance. In one hand, the speaker remembers the rivers like Euphrates, Nile, Congo, Mississippi, while the other hand, life is one way or other by singing of them. Langston Hughes celebrates Afro-American culture and heritage. So here, in the present poem, he also celebrates the black culture and its heritage. That how that culture, even the black civilization, how it is older than everything. So here he also emphasizes adoring their culture and heritage too by giving examples of such four oldest rivers. The speaker in the poem asserts that he has known the rivers as ancient as the world, older than the blood that runs in our veins today. The speaker connects himself with his ancestor and root by locating them in different important rivers of the world. He time and again claimed that my soul has deep grown deep like the rivers to depict the importance of these great rivers in his life. So, just deeply rooted with history, with ancient, with black culture. Again, he wants to explain himself with these rivers also. So here he claims that he is Euphrates River. He has taken a bath in mighty Congo. He has built home. He has seen Nile River and the great pyramids being raised near it, and heard the Mississippi sinking to welcome the historical leader Abraham Lincoln, which turned the golden color. So just we have to make certain points. First introduction, then about this particular first stanza, first four lines, that how he gives importance to African culture or celebrating African culture and its heritage. Then about these four rivers, first bath, then built house, then pyramids, and then Abraham Lincoln. Or we maybe make a separate point related to Abraham Lincoln and that particular his first incident related to the slavery and then the end. So we have to make this type of point so that it will be easy for us to understand and to exactly explain the poem in our examination point of view also. Okay, so today we are going to stop here. In our next week, on next Wednesday and Friday, we will continue the same poem and we will try to complete it. Just go home and read the poem once, say twice or thrice because it is necessary. Though the poem looks very simple, just try to point out various points which we have discussed so that it will be easy for all of us to understand it properly and to use it in the examination.